All right, I'm not going to give you the whole spiel here of over it being amazing that I'm awake and kicking. I had Friendsgiving last night. It was interesting. It was my first kick in American Thanksgiving, so it was interesting. But at any rate, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about a lot of things here today. We're going to talk about kind of like what we've been doing over the last three weeks. Also, we're going to talk about what's next, what the next steps are for development on Prodigy. We're going to talk about the state of the roleplay on the server, and we're going to talk about potential rule changes that could be coming here in the near future. So, with that being said, and without further ado, let's get going. A lot of you have probably noticed that we weren't as heavy on content updates over the last 3 weeks, and that is not a standard that we want to keep with the server. The big reason for this was the fact that we realized pretty early on in October that with the size and the growth of the server that we had already circumvented we've already exceeded the number of database entries we had for the entirety of our last wipe. That was like what, 5 months, 5 or 6 months already. So we realized pretty quickly that we were about to start testing the capabilities of our framework, and we realized very quickly that we were getting into trouble, right, in terms of performance. And this is going to affect our ability to grow and do the things that we wanted to do within the server. A big thing we've always wanted has been, to have great performance on the server. And we had that within the first month or so. And then as things became, more bloated, you guys probably noticed there was a lot more hitches when you're playing the server. It wasn't as smooth. So we undertook a massive undertaking, which was basically to rewrite the entirety of like how we manage data, right, and player data and player events, etc. So that's what we've been doing. You've probably noticed that we did a large migration here at the beginning of this week, and you've probably noticed as a result of that some major performance changes. Honestly, this is one of those things where we were operating on standards of maybe 2.5, 3 years ago instead of what the standards of like today should be, of 2023. So we fixed and updated our tech stack because at the end of the day, one of the things that would affect us the most long term would be the fact of having a mass amount of tech debt. And we just didn't want to get into that. I've seen this problem happen in startups that I've been a part of. I've seen this happen on GTA servers. And when you don't deal with the issue, it persists for years, right? Because you always say, okay, that's too big of an undertaking. We need to put something out. We need to put content out. So we decided to prioritize getting this done so that we don't have to in the future come back to this and it be a massive undertaking where we have to completely wipe databases, completely change the way we do things. And it's just, it was the right call at the right time, honestly. But at any rate, it was very successful. And I'm sure you guys saw minimal issues, which for an undertaking of what we did on a live server and a live environment is pretty amazing. So I want to give a real shout out to the devs that on quality assurance here, because that was like a big problem I think we had on our first patch was the quality assurance of the content we put out. And I think we did a great job of showing that we learned from that. And there was some massive quality assurance to this massive rollout. This was not a small undertaking. It was huge, honestly. And this is one of those things where I believe like me and Tedders, like the people who are like kind of project managing day to day, where we were a little bit, we kind of had to let Jesus take the wheel. In this case, Jesus was Ice, RNA, and the rest of the devs because this was so technically advanced that we just, me and Tedders were more like, is this done today? Is this done? We were basically taskmasters at this point, but it was a massive undertaking, and I'm very proud of the team for putting this over the. Yeah. Me and Tedders, our last 3 weeks have basically been, is this done? Oh my God, what happened? And then me having mass amounts of caffeine and freaking out every day. That was basically our last 3 weeks. Where it's like, holy fuck, is this done? Holy fuck, is it? Yeah. Basically, that was me and Tedders. We were under. Yeah, but the devs did a great job. So I want to put my hats off to them. This is a massive undertaking. I'm so glad that we were able to push it. We still have some things we're going to migrate still, but for the most part, it was a huge win. So good job, guys. Next up, what is next for development on Prodigy Roleplay, right? Because right now, what we showed is that we want to drop like a major content patch. Is that the standard for the future? How much of a cadence do we want to get on here with our content? What is the method of delivery that we want for our content? Because obviously we've had like a 3-week kind of lapse where we pushed very minimal content, right? Because we were working on this here. This is one of these types of things where we kind of had to look at the last patch and how we dropped it and kind of determine how we want to drop patches in the future, which is what we will talk about now. Basically, we found that dropping all of the content simultaneously was rough because people want to just burn through everything immediately, right? I think the biggest surprise for us as a development team on a GTA roleplay server was seeing how much it looked like Goldshire within the first 2 days of the patch being dropped up at the favelas. And that is definitely something that we want to avoid in the future, because what ended up happening was that people just burnt through the content so quick. We saw a lot of stuff happening, like the metagaming of where the vendors were, metagaming, some fail RP from like civilians just going up and immediately becoming hitmen. And it created this really weird dynamic where people went through a content rush even when it didn't make sense in roleplay. And for us, that became a real problem, right? And it just looked bad, honestly. And I don't want to get in here and lecture people on the reality of what your character should or shouldn't do. However, I do think we can all agree that some stuff was, that is not what we want, right? It was great that people wanted to consume the content. The method of the consumption was an issue. So one of the things we want to do to help curb that in the future is we're changing the way we do content releases. We are going to show people the entirety of the patch, right? What we are going to provide in advance. And then next up, what we're going to do is we will drip that content out over that period of time, right? So just say we have a multi-piece patch. We'll drop the precursor stuff at the first week, and then we'll drop the more advanced stuff the week after, and then so on, so that there is at least a slowdown of progression, right? We're going to be adopting a more traditional like game development style, like a patch cycle, where it's like the 13.3, 13.3.1, 13.3.2, 13.3, like stuff like that. So 1.1, 1.11, 1.12, stuff like that. So we're going to be doing that on a weekly cadence, so that the way that eventually things should work is that we have content dropping every week, something that adds to the progression of the server. So that is kind of the idea that we're shooting for here. And the first place that we're going to do that is in the next patch that we drop here for Prodigy, which should be in the next week or two. Okay, so that's got that out of the way. So we will have a content patch coming in the next week or two, with a trailer probably coming later this week, just so you guys are fully aware. All right, so with the content drop, that's kind of what we want to get to. Another thing I want to add here is that we are continually adding to our development team. We just took on a new development team, ScriptForge, which they have been involved in the development of some major Polish servers, as well as they have their ScriptForge shop. These guys are very good for us for a couple of reasons. They're able to conceptualize and do numerous UI asks on like a very short turnaround. Like they can do mini games in a day, right? They can mock up and design a mini game and then have that out in a day. And then meanwhile, while they're doing that stuff, they can do UI stuff. So some stuff that I can give you examples of is like they were able to scope out and design a mini game for one of the new systems. We're redoing store robberies, just so you guys know. In store robberies, we were able to redo the mini game from a mock-up and then have that executed to be implemented in the game like today, right? Crafting, we had a crafting UI. They were able to design and conceptualize crafting UI and redesign that for us for a new crafting system. So, and this is just stuff they've been able to do since they came on board in the last week, right? And some of this stuff is just still involved in some of the back-end engineering pieces, But as you can see, they're very swift in their ability to execute and get things in game in a playable state. So at any rate, they're a huge ad for us. We also have a couple other devs we'll announce here within the week that we've also put on board onto the team. So we are continually growing and trying to put ourselves into a position where we're always executing towards a cadence for patches. The idea would be that we'd like to have like a month out of content just sitting in our GitHub. That is the goal, so that we have the ability to roll out patches slowly while we're working on the next iteration of the patch, so we can see what's happening as we're developing the next pieces. So that right there, ladies and gentlemen, that is basically the rundown of how we are looking at our next patch and what's coming here in the future. A lot of cool things coming from Prodigy as well, in terms of that right there. So welcome ScriptForge, and we will welcome the next devs in the next little while. The next piece I want to focus on is getting into kind of like the server culture in conflict and the queue and all of that good stuff in terms of RP quality and the things that we are hoping to see for the server, and some of the things we've seen recently that we don't want to continue. We've seen over the last week in particular a real problem with chain shootouts, right? Just shootouts continually perpetuating themselves over the server. When a shootout's over, gangs pretty much beginning a retaliatory shootout immediately. And the problem that we get into when we have this type of culture develop on the server, and this is why we want to bust this and kind of hit this and then hit this like right away, is the fact that once this type of culture develops, it's really hard to get out of. The reality of the situation is, ladies and gentlemen, that if you get in a shootout and the cops have to respond to it, they have to pick your bodies up in the EMS, and you get into another shootout, and the cops have to come do that again, and then the cops have to come and do that again like an hour later, you are stretching the police force and the medics so far. And they are key aspects of the server that you are taking out because they're getting burnt out and logging off. Yeah, I almost said hit this in the nuts. What I meant was it in the bud, nip it in the bud. There you go. Yeah, sorry. I did almost say that. You guys did catch it. My bad. Okay, my bad. All right. We all have that moment. All right. Okay, where you're like, did I almost just say that? That was my moment. Okay. There you go. You guys got it now. All right, clip it, ship it, whatever. Me, mommy, a year from now. The reality of the situation is that once you chain these shootouts and you continually are just putting stress on the EMS and the PD, what you're doing is taking the you're burning the PD and the EMS out, right? And then what happens is they log off. And then there's 13 cops. And then the 13 cops that are left, they are even more burnt out, right? Because they have to respond to more stuff and be responsible for more things shorthanded. And it perpetuates this awful cycle on the server where the police become less pleasant to deal with, right? On like a daily basis. And then that kind of, the PD are the people who interact with people the most on the server. They hit the most amount of people every single day. And then what happens is because the PD are pissed off, then the criminals and civilians and everyone else get pissed off at the PD, and then it starts the anti-PD brigade. And it creates this awful cycle on the server that just never ends. So the things I want to point out on this, and that should already be commonplace and common sense, are the fact that you are not valuing your life when you are chained into shootouts. If you get up and you get shot down, you get right back up and you go to shoot out in the gang again, you're not valuing your life. You just got shot up. You just sustained injuries, and you're going back in and you're going to re-injure yourself. You are not valuing your life. From the general perception of that rule, you are breaking that rule when you do this. Number 2, it is low quality roleplay. To chain back-to-back gang shootouts, it's low quality roleplay. The thing is that you should wait, strategize what the next move is, and you should probably, strategize to see what you're going to do next. From a lost shootout, there might be an hour of roleplay that you've just missed because you've decided to skip all of that and just go right back to the shootout. That's another thing I want people to consider. Also, camping of hospitals and hospitals as green zones. This has been a major issue on the server recently, and one we want to make sure that we curb, and we're going to make sure that we're banning for. If you are running to a green zone and camping there, that is against the rules, right? If you're in a shootout and you actively are being shot at and you drive from that shootout to the green zone as people are actively visually chasing you, right? You can see them, there's bullets flying, and you go into the hospital, you are breaking the rules. Okay? What is not breaking the rules is if you are not being chased, and you get people who are dying and have been shot, and you need to get the medical attention, you take them away, you're not being chased, and then you go to the hospital, that is not a green zone violation. And the other side of this problem that we've been dealing with is the fact of gangs, after they've been in a shootout, following people to the hospital when they haven't actively been in the chase to go and finish them off, to go check the hospital, say, oh, maybe they went to the hospital, I'm going to go finish them off, and going to finish the gunfight or going to do some COD lobby shit talk. And that stuff is unacceptable on the server. We are not going to accept that on the server, period. If you want to come here and treat this like a Call of Duty lobby, you will be swiftly banned and kicked out the door, and you will have all of the time in the world, my friend, to play Call of Duty all day long. We do not shame shootouts in the server. We have a firm belief in the fact that criminals need to be criminals and cops need to be cops. We've had that belief on our server since the very beginning. It was the foundation of how we formed this community. However, what I can tell you is that once you cross the line to that being your entire existence and your entire role play is just shooting other people and just shit talking other people, and you put no effort into anything else, into no other role play, to no other ability to have plot development or story development for other characters, at that point you are a waste of a server slot. Sorry. Like, I begrudge no one. Everyone has their own likes and interests, but at the end of the day, we have to protect what this server is about. And I have no bad blood against anyone that we have to pull the trigger on for this. But if you're coming here to self-insert yourself and basically just play what you've played in Arena with your bros, right? And you're coming in here to put surgical gloves on, you know, and just shoot people, like, you are not going to be on the server. And I apologize to you because you're probably just coming here to hang out with your friends, you know? But at the end of the day, just like when you go into the movie theater, right? There's a list of rules on the side when you walk in. And if you're going to come in and you're going to interrupt the movie for everyone else, well, you're going to get kicked out of there too, no matter how much someone likes you, right? So I want to be very clear that we have zero tolerance for this shit. And I have informed the admins to be absolutely ruthless. For anyone that is bringing zero roleplay to a situation, if your only roleplay is to insult someone after a shootout, and that's all you've done, you will be gone from here. Period. So, I want that to be clear. We are putting our foot down on that shit. You will be gone. I don't care if you have an Onyx subscription. I don't care if you offer to pay $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to be unbanned. No one cares. Okay? At the end of the day, that is nothing compared to the quality of the roleplay that we need on the server. So I wanted that to be very clear, because we have a lot of people who are like, but I have an Onyx subscription when we've banned them for this type of thing. It's like, it doesn't matter what you have. At the end of the day, we have to make sure the community is strong. Period. Okay. With that being said, on shootouts, we are putting our foot down. No more fail-ass RP. Right? Number one. Okay. Next up, what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is in terms of abusing of game mechanics. All right? We have had a mass amount of people attempting to abuse game mechanics or to do things that they know a mechanic wasn't meant to do. And we have a very firm view on the server of we don't want to lock things down so heavily that it eliminates roleplay for other people on game mechanics. And what we've had recently is a number of people that have abused game mechanics to a large degree to win shootouts, etc., etc. One of the big things we've seen is emote spamming in gunfights, you know, trying to avoid damage by spamming emotes over and over again. I'm going to ban you for that. Okay? That's not a question. That's literally in the rules. If you are proning in an active gunfight, like if you do /prone as you're getting shot at, I will ban you. Period. It will not be a discussion. That is an abuse of game mechanic. It's literally written in our rules. And I don't know where people have gotten off or you know, started to think that these things are okay. If they're slipping or whatnot, we will get rid of you. There is no way. No, we can't allow that stuff on the server. You know, especially stuff that's like written out literally in black and white. Okay? And then other people that are spamming emotes to try and avoid like taser shots, etc. Like that stuff is all going to be, you're all going to be hit on that pretty hard. At the end of the day, this is one of the most popular servers in the world right now. And the fact of the matter is, if you want to engage in that type of debauchery or for the fact that you do not have the experience in GTA to know that that is not okay, either of those things are not all right, because this is not the starter server. Okay, this is not the place where you go to start roleplay. Unfortunately, this is the place where you're trying to go to once you've gotten to a point in roleplay where you know what you're doing. Okay, so we have to have zero tolerance on this shit, and that's the way it's going to be on going forward. Period. And we will be hitting hard on this. So like, this is kind of the warning bell that I want to ring for the community. That's like, hey, I understand that we've been very nice to a lot of people here, and we have, coached a lot of people on a lot of different things, but we are at a point in our growth, in our server life cycle right now, where we cannot tolerate this shit at all anymore. So clean it up. You have to clean it up. Okay? Period. That's it. The admins are taking, there's no more Mr. Nice Guy with the admins. Not with this stuff. This is like bare minimum roleplay standards. No more coaching. That stuff is done. Those are abusive game mechanics. You have to have a certain level of gameplay experience to even know how to do that. So that's it. Okay. With that being said, I don't want to keep people here too long. I want to get to the Q&A portion of this pretty quickly. I think I covered everything that I was supposed to cover here today. I have everything written out, so everything that I was told to cover, I am covering. I think we did good here, and I think I did pretty good with a hangover. You guys can tell me opposite later, but sure. If you have any questions, place them in town hall. Emotes to hide from cops are okay. As long that's perfectly fine. There's no problem with emotes to hide from cops. The problem is in active gunfights where it becomes like an actual benefit. Okay. If anyone wants to tag, make sure you tag me in the town hall thing, the chat, if you're trying to ask a question. And I'm going to do about 10 minutes of this, and then we're putting everyone back to the server. What's coming in the next update patch? I hinted at 2 things already, or 3 things in my last speech, but other than that, you're going to have to wait for the trailer. Pro Commando J, regarding server RP past week or so, it seems that the RP is getting more strict, more serious. That's the necessary in certain situations and shying away from fun RP. Is the server objective now to be more serious, or are we still striving for quality fun RP? This server's always been about a mix. This is an improv server that pushes, that tries to accommodate heavy story as well. So I don't know without examples, what you're talking about, but the goal has always been improv with serious RP moments. Will there be more cars being added or more restocks? Yes, we're actively working on the PDM, the PDM and car dealing problem. When there is D8? Question mark? House robberies will be redone. It's on our whole, well, not redone, but they're going to be, there's going to be a whole progression system. Oh, there was a huge thing I forgot about. Holy shit, I'm sorry, guys. Gang rep. Okay, sorry. Tedders, can you pull the top 5 gangs for me when you get a chance, if you have the ability? Yeah, sorry guys, I forgot all about this. I want to warn everyone that we are in the last week of our current gang rep cycle right now. And what that means is that the top 5 gangs that we have are going to have a custom chain done for them in game. And there will be a couple other rewards and benefits that I'll post here in the coming days. And we will be resetting the gang rep with the new patch. And with this will start a redo to the progression, and we will have a added progression for gangs, for criminals, etc. like that. So it's kind of like a soft criminal reset to reset the balance of power on the server. And yeah, so this will be a big thing. We'll release the top 5 as it stands. Probably we'll release the top 10, maybe here sometime after the community meeting. And we will show people where it's at, and then you guys have about a week to try and like grind that out if you want to try and get into the top 5 for a chain. I've said this all along that we're going to do this type of thing for rewards. I mentioned this at the first day I think we implemented the stuff, that the top gangs at the end of this cycle will all be rewarded. And just so people know, it's always been the expectation that these gang reputations would be reset within 3 months. We've been very honest about that from the beginning. So that's a big thing. Also, there will be criminal progression and stuff like that implemented with the new patch as well that we are currently implementing at the moment. So that'll come in the next week or so. Okay. So I do have that. That was an important thing I forgot about. Any discussions on lengthening respawn timers when EMS are on the clock? UTLs account for so much of our calls. Unfortunately, that's one of those things where it is that's the same as last time. Okay. Okay, so for the gang rep, I'll just announce this really quickly after I answer this question. For that one, Lex, this is an unfortunate reality of a large server, and if we make that respawn timer longer, it's gonna lead to a lot of people being more having a worse time. It's something we can talk about, but it's not something I'm prepared to answer in much detail for this community meeting. Any plans to make a new handcuff minigame? Potentially, yeah. I don't really like ours. New life rule coming. We have a new life rule. Okay, so this is one we discussed about a lot. We didn't want people to lose story progression when people got shot down. This happened a lot in the past. Potentially we could, but most people I think are pretty good about the fact that they don't immediately snitch, right? Because there's a lot of consequences if you do, right, in roleplay. So I don't know if we've seen a need for it that much on the server, but it's something we've talked about. It's something I will definitely talk to with our stakeholders about as a potential rule. In the future, will we see a slot? Yes, we will. Can we please get a new life rule? No. Okay. I don't know that they're abusing. Oh, maybe. Okay, hold on. Can we please get a new life rule? People are abusing this with back-to-back shootouts. That's a good point, and I don't know. Yes, that's actually a good point. I'm not going to answer that right now. Actually, that's a really good point, and one for some reason I didn't think about. Because maybe I have been dealing with so many reports that I didn't have time to sit down and like think things out and theorize as to what the problem is yet. Yeah, that's a good point actually. So I don't want to answer that right now, but I'll take that back and have more conversations. Is there any way to address stream sniping for the streamers of the server? Yeah, streamers need to report it so that we can investigate it. We ban stream snipers every day, literally every day. PDS times they were unable to sentence through MDT and they skirted by with valid license even though they get gang related or other felony. You need to put in bug reports for those individual incidents to Sean, or we can never get that fixed. Can we have a public server in the future? I can't comment on any servers or potential servers that we may have. You mentioned possible rule changes. What exactly are those, or is it just stricter stuff on the rules already implemented? It will likely be more strict rules put in place. If someone breaches you during jewelry bank, is that allowed? You have to be way more specific on that, my friend. Who is breaching you? Any update to the DOGA MDT in terms of public defender access? Yes, there's a floating commit right now that we're testing. Can custom clothing for peds be reintroduced? There is custom clothing for peds. I'm confused. We just don't have the bandwidth to do it for individual people. When does the server plan on including adding vehicle mods? Very soon. Crafting, which is coming. Is there going to be any changes on rules to the COC and approving business? Seems very inconsistent and affects the RP. I really don't think it does. I think they've been moving pretty swiftly with a lot of those businesses, honestly. Are we likely going to obtain any more clothing? We always add clothing. We're working on a large patch of clothing at the moment. When you head pop while playing, there should be a better queue system instead of waiting 30 minutes, 1 hour when you're getting pushed back. Cool story, man. I mean, most people get crash priority. This is something we talk about a lot. If you want to see a better answer on that one, I would direct you probably to the general chat where they've pinned and I've answered that question a lot. That's a very frustrating question because like we answer that all the time. Okay, will there be EMS queue added like the PD has? As I said before, that we would look at that when we feel that that is necessary. When are we able to look at new content? If we're able to push more or spread more content to Harmony, Sandy, Pluto, this would really help businesses. We'll do that through naturally placing stuff in the game. Can we get an option to change the leader creator of the gang? Had some problems with that. No, that requires an admin ticket for a variety of reasons I don't want to get into at the moment. Mostly just due to the fact that it's abusable. Will this reset affect every rep, i.e. house rob, level, pawn level, boosting grade? It will affect a lot of things, potentially a lot of those things. Not all that I've read there, but yeah, a lot of them. When you have Popple playing, there should be a better... Also, we're going to wipe VIN scratches. I want that to be clear so people can wrap their head around that. We're wiping VIN scratches on this one as well. So people are gonna have to deal with that. They were very easy to get. They will become a little harder, and we are wiping the VIN scratches. Oh, well, that's it. I said this might happen in the last community meeting. I definitely foreshadowed this. No, cars. VIN scratches on cars, not serial scratches. Does that mean we'll lose safe houses, warehouses after reset? Yes. Can you please touch on walking into houses that someone is robbing? Obviously, sitting outside the door is not good, but as far as walking into a house, I don't look. As long as you properly roleplay that out and you don't abuse the game mechanics to do what you're doing, I don't think there's an issue. Any plans to limit the amount of car swaps allowed? 6 to 7 car swaps in one chase seems a lot. Look, this is something people get into all the time, right? That's the fact of the matter is that criminals are going to rat to get away from you. It wouldn't make sense if they didn't, you know? At the end of the day, what we have to get better at as a cop force is preventing them from getting into that car, which means they need to tase your ass when you're going for the car, which is something we're trying to stress to the cops, right? I don't know what's going on. Some cops are a little more afraid than other ones, more timid, and we just got to get them fucking going, right? Like we got to get them in the mindset of like, warn them, tase them. If they are in the middle of a chase, they've swapped 2 cars already, and they have been warned, don't tase them, right? Like, that's pretty much what happens here. Like, we can't tell criminals you can only swap cars 5 times, right? Like, come on. It gets so silly, right? We can't tell criminals that. And I see this perspective come from cops all the time. And it's like, you can't, once you start telling criminals, you have 3 car swaps, buddy. What ends up happening is that criminal is going to rat their way to the 3, and they're counting them in their head, and it becomes more about the rule of not breaking the 3 than it does about the role play. And if we get into that cycle, then, you know, look, it's bad enough we have to do that for numbers and fights and stuff like that, right? Because it's very stressful on people where they overthink the numbers thing, right? And they stop role play to count numbers, right? And that's necessary, but like that's the type of thing you get into when you implement hard numbers and limits on things and rules, right? Our goal should be not to do that. Our goal should be to be better and give PD better tools to be able to deal with that. And like if people have suggestions on how to implement mechanics that would be better for the car swaps, like we're all for that. It's just I think for me personally and a lot of the devs, like we kind of have a mental block there where it's like, well, what else do we implement, you know, that's not like crazy. So I mean, if people have ideas of what cops could do there, which wouldn't like overpower criminals and make them feel like all of their agency was taken in like a moment, you know, like that's something we could look at. But to be honest, we're kind of at a mental block there. Can we have public server in the future? I'm not answering that question, as I said. Can we make clear clarification of the rules for raiding weed warehouses from a defending and raider standpoint? I mean, we've stated clearly that it's not turf. So honestly, one of the rules we're going to be putting in, and I'll tell you this will probably answer most of your questions, is that we're going to, any snitch mechanics or like brick runs, etc., like that are considered initiated, right? The person that's hitting it is initiated. So and if someone goes near your shit, they're initiated on, right? Like, and that means they go to the back of the van, okay, or they're hitting your weed warehouse, like they're actively doing it. But you know, if the shitty thing is in this incident is that you have to determine that the person is the person you're hitting, right? Or it indeed is RDM. But the idea is that you're already greenlit for combat in those situations. But I want to be very clear, okay, and this is where it gets messy, is the fact that if you shoot someone who is not involved in that conflict, that indeed is RDM. Okay, so you need to make sure that the person you're shooting is the person involved in that thing. Which I know that can get a little tricky, but I mean that's roleplay. That's what roleplay's about. Sometimes you gotta fucking ask, right? That's it. This is not strictly towards the news here, but just a new player being curious. What are the opportunities when it comes to private companies such as private security firm to help out with stress, police experience, and house robberies? I mean, we could look at stuff like that. You know, as the server grows, matures, those are things we'll have to look at. Any word on real estate? Yes. Any chance people in the city can request props around the city? For example, a couch on a roof where people hang out. Obviously, yeah, this stuff, yeah, like people can ask for that stuff. I think right now, though, I would like people to be very conscious of the fact that we are like heavily involved in like a lot of 3D development at the moment. And some of these things are rough for us to, at the moment, to have the bandwidth to do, because we have a lot of very large projects. Will there ever be vehicle tuning? Yeah, we've thought about it, and we'll probably look at it. But we want to do our own UI when we do it. Can we please get a new life rule? People are abusing this with back-to-back shootouts. I already answered that. I feel like I'm recycling the same questions. Are these rules on breaching other banks instead of stores of cops do not show up? There are no rules on you breaching. Okay, there are. Okay, so let me answer this. On if you breach someone else's heist and the cops are there and all cops have guns up and you run in past the cops, that is NVL as hell, right? That will end in a ban. I'll be honest. Like that will end. You will probably get a ban for that, right? It does super fail. Fail RP there. What I will tell you is that if you're doing that to someone, there's no cops there, there isn't like a barrier, median, you know, there's no threat on your life to be able to enter and do that, then in that case, I think it's just roleplay, in my opinion. Non-whitelist scrub here with the popular series basically doomed for non-supporters to join currently. I would say that if you are not supporting, the only chance that you have an application review is being extremely active in the server, the general chat. And we've done that quite a bit. But yeah, at the moment, there is such a demand to get in this server that I cannot, with a good conscience, tell you that regularly applying is going to get you reviewed anytime the next months, barring like a major exodus from the server, which at that point, you know, something else happened. Can we get an option to change leader creator of the gang in the app? It had some problems that if the leader's not here anymore, we can't do. No, we're not. I've already said we're not doing that. When you head pop while playing is okay. Am I getting knocked up the list? People are stop reposting your questions, please, guys. Will there be any increases to the housing queue or potentially more safe house and warehouses added with the population? Yes. Can you get S. Souls here back? That'll have something to have. That happened to me as well. So that'll be something that there's a fix. Here data gets deleted in some very rare circumstances. Any major changes now that there are 50 more slots? That's a very broad question. Tim-Mac, do you want to come up on the stage and clarify what you mean there? Just raise your hand. Is there a quick fix for someone having the clay texture issue? Raising your texture budget. Extended texture budget is big. There he is. There's the man. There you go, brother.
Hold. Can you hear me? Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like 50 slots, like I mean that's gonna bring an influx of a lot more, obviously more action and just things happening. So obviously in the middle of the night it's not as big a deal because we're not hitting cap, but like during the day when we do hit cap, that's gonna put a lot of strain on certain parts of the, you know, whether contracts or, you know, the house robbery max limits on groups. Obviously like business owners may need a bit more help if there's, because there's going to be more going on. So just like different things like that, if there's going to be any adjustments on that side.
Yeah, so some of the things we've thought about and we've implemented already is with the bank system, there is like a police strength system. I had a similar thing I had the last server I was part of, where basically there's like a floating cap or number that increases, like there's like a base cap of like just say like 20, right? And a cop logs on, they may add like +2 or +3 or plus, like a number there. And basically what we did at the bank system there is that if there's an available amount of strength available, it lets the thing happen, right? So implementing more of our systems into there is going to be a big part of what we do. Another thing with so we're going to implement more of our systems in like an overall crime queue, basically, that has a little bit better math. So maybe a house robbery is worth 5 strength, right? While a bank is worth, well, let's just say 100, So
yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, like house robbery more oftentimes than not will be able to pop off instead of the bank because it's only taking 5 of the pie, right? It's gonna be a lot harder to get the 100 of the pie, basically. So that's stuff we're looking at there. For civilians and businesses, I think that's something we're just gonna have to get feedback from a lot of you guys on, is in terms of like what the actual problems you're up against is. Like you gave me some feedback on the time it takes to repair a car. So that's something we're looking at as well now with the crafting update. Now we have migration done, stuff like that, where it's like, yeah, Stroke Masters is dealing with the majority of the repairs and autos, right? And they're stuck in 20-second repair loops or 15, whatever it is. Obviously halving that puts out your guys' productivity with 100 extra people on the server. So
yep. Right. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great.
Yep. Cool.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude. Any plan for an anti-cheat system? Yes. I mean, we have an anti-cheat system. The problem is that there's just some things that circumvent 5M in general, right? Like there's some menus out there, and I mean they've posted about it numerous times, right? So yeah. Is there a plan to add a reputation for public defenders, lawyers? Weird question, but I thought I might ask. No. Make an inside rule for the PD. Let them shoot the tire after the third swap. No, there's no reason to shoot tires. At the point you're shooting tires, you just shoot the person. And honestly, if you look at how cars still take off even when they're without it, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't do anything. And cops stopping to aim and shoot at the tire a lot of times makes them not able to get in the car. And this is the problem that we have oftentimes. This is the biggest reason we implemented this, outside of like the real life rationale, is the fact that if you stop to shoot the tire, then you're not getting in your car to chase it, and oftentimes they get away when you shoot tires. That was like the big thing that happened when we were shooting tires with our PD, because we did that a couple months ago. And what I'll tell you is we lost more stuff than we gained because people just get pissed off. They'd shoot the tire, they'd stumble around trying to get back in the car, and then they never get back in the car. I mean, there's probably like a handful of officers that would probably be able to shoot a tire, get back in their car, and chase the person and catch them. But I will tell you the majority of the police force is not at that level. Any plans on revising the snitch system? Still feels far too powerful. I don't know if it's, I mean, it's a consequence of what you're doing, right? Like the things you buy with the snitch are not expensive things, right? Like the risk to reward has to be there. We've done some limiting with the snitch in terms of like how often you get contracts, etc. But the but the idea is that, hey, you know, the idea is that you're supposed to easily lose your hangout, your warehouses, etc. like that because of the price point they're at. So if we change the snitch system, it's going to make those things cost way more, way more. Have you thought about adding an extra restart? No, we're not adding an extra restart. Any way to up the storage slots in the hotel so people can stop using stash cars? That'll be fixed with my yes answer above. Any plans on anti? Got that. When it comes to private comment, no. My old city, you were able to break into player owned houses. We did that before. A lot of us were involved in having done that in the past, and it just led to a lot of toxicity. But it's not something we're totally against. Is it possible to add a PRP radio on the server? Yes, we're going to. 300 slots on the server next week. If we can catch up on cop numbers, yes. Touching on what you just mentioned about mechanics, could be something interesting. An experience system. We have progression. I don't want to talk about it yet. That's coming in the next batch. How about a gang saying they split up but still rolling together and both fighting the same gang on a war to get advantage on numbers? Isn't that some kind of exploit? I would say to a certain degree, yes. And if you have situations like that, you should report them so that we can investigate them fully and we can give an actual answer because there's a lot of nuance there. Maybe know how many personal do you have at hand for reviews? We have about 10 people. We're hiring a bunch of staff now because we didn't want to dilute the quality of staff. Basically, we want reports to be handled appropriately. And sometimes what ends up happening when you take a bunch of new staff on is that it dilutes the quality of reports being dealt with. Someone leaking car restock info a week or two in advance is killing the businesses. People are like, you need to report those people because they're breaking the rules. What is being done about these gangs that have 3 or 4 people on producing mass weed but not being able to be rated because they don't have the certain number of players? Report them because I will ban them because I've already posted that. I would ban them for that stuff. That is abusing a game mechanic. Will we see changes in certain reps like scrapping, garbage? Not at the moment. Will there be a way to stop the bleeding without going to the hospital? It'd be annoying getting shot once while wearing armor when doing a boost. No, we're not changing that. Are there any planned charges to the laptop to make more developable? At the moment, it's only used for criminal activity. We're gonna add stuff to the laptop. We're probably gonna redo the UI at some point. With the server slots going up, will there be a revisit to the 5-man rule? No. Mentioning cop numbers, is there any prelude on when the next wave of hiring interviews will be? I mean, we just hired people yesterday, guys. My answer to you is if you are asking that question, you have not done the bare minimum role play to even be asking that question here. More in-depth PD roles that have been suggested, like lab techs, we'll look at that stuff. As we have a very like new police department, and adding a bunch of departments does nothing to help us, grow. If you just add a bunch of departments at once, so we need to be very careful. We need to iterate kind of slowly with the police force and that stuff. Can we change the shooting camera to third person whilst driving bikes? No, we remove that on purpose. Who's this? Medi wants to talk. There you go, Medi. Well, Prodigy RP have a dev academy. No, we don't have time for that, unfortunately. What's up, Medi?
Yeah, dude. So, like, let's say I want to join IRC for free rep. Can I do that, dude?
No, that is very much against the. That's very much against the server rules, Stanley. I know what you're doing. Why are you doing that, Stanley?
Oh my God, but so many people are doing it, dude. Please.
Look,
I know. Seriously, could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
About
sure.
the anonymous IRCs, or not the anonymous IRCs, but rather, well, you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah. So I have Edward working on a fix for that. I asked him to do something there for me. So there's at least like you have to be next to the boost to be able to do it. I think I reverted at some point. But if you guys are just giving out your group numbers and stuff, that is such. And I've had this debate philosophically with a lot of people, like because it came so commonplace. Even like some of the best role players that I know were doing this, and I was like, "Why are you doing this?" And it's like everyone was like, "Well, it's we should it's just passive. It's like a passive boost." And like I try to explain to people, I'm like, "Bro, you need to think about that for a second. You're creating passive income for doing no role play, right?" And this one is eating me alive because like there's so many people I know and so many good friends that are like great role players that are involving themselves in just taking a code, going into the group, getting the free reward, right, for the boosting. And it blows my mind because I'm like, I don't know. This is a server culture thing that became so like prevalent and I guess easy for people to do that people just didn't stop and think about like how like there's no role play to what's happening. And I'm sure there's role play to get the code sometimes if you like ask someone for the code, but you're not like involving yourself in the boost. You're not doing the thing. And that is bad. So you need to stop doing that. Honestly, the last time this happened, like we made a post about it. We said, do not do this. And people are still doing it. So stop doing it. All right. I have logs of the IRC. Like the problem is that there's so many of you doing this shit right now that if I went to go ban everyone who was involved in it, bro, we'd empty out half the fucking server.
Oh my God, what about my house robbery rep, dude? What if I join the one that I see outside the house robbery guy?
That's not much better. That's not much better. I gotta be honest. That's awful. So are people doing that with house robberies too? They're just joining it and not going to the house robbery?
Oh my God, I see it all the time, dude, at the house robbery guy.
Oh my God, my brain.
Yo, don't tell anyone I snitching, dude.
Oh my God. Okay, all of that is bad, guys. What the fuck? Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yep. Thanks, Benny. Thanks for giving me a headache. Yep. Okay. Yeah, no, none of that is okay. We will work on mechanics to make sure that is not the case anymore. Holy shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. I think what I might need to do is just make rep gain for house robberies might literally have to be conjoined with the loot, like selling the loot. Oh my God, that's crazy. Okay. Cool. Can you speak on people running over people in gunfights? I mean, the thing is that I have to be careful with the answer to this question because at the end of the day, if you're just running over someone and you're not under threat, that's kind of shitty, right? But if you're being shot at or being aimed at and you run over someone, you're pressing it's kind of not, like at that point, I mean, go wild, because at that point, like they're actively a threat to you. And if you didn't put the pedal, what defense mechanism do you really have? So, but if you're just going into a gunfight and just running people over, that's all you're doing, you'll likely get banned for that. Okay. And I think that's it. I think I'm going to end it there. I think that's good. I think we've answered all the questions we need to for today. I am going to head off. We'll talk to you guys all later. And I hope we were able to speak and answer to a number of your questions. I will release the gang stuff here now. The number one is Chang Gang. They are at 82 rep. Next up is the Bowl Cut Bandits at 40. Next up is Kilo Tray Ballas at 39.92. They're right neck and neck with number 2. Next up is Cammy at 29.1. Next up is Rat at 29.1. I think that's the Zodiacs. I could be wrong. The Rogues are next up at 28.5. Onis at 25, Legion at 25, Jesters at 24, Christmas Sicarios 24.7, and Midnight Club at 24.48. And I'll just put the 11 and 12 here. Static and Vinewood 22s are the next two at 23 and 22. And then there's one more, Bikini Bottom at 21. Whoever those guys are, I don't know. I won't be able to tell you. So, that's pretty much. So I think that was basically the top like 13, 12 or 13 or something. And then below those is Apollos Locos and Santa Sagrados, Diablo, Sunnyvale, GSA, and Black Mamas. They're all in like the teens just below them all. So that's pretty much where everything is, guys. So go out, have some fun. The who? The Bustas. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of gangs. Like the only gangs that have, there's about 34 gangs that have surpassed the 10th level rep. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for your time. Have a good day on the server. Take it easy.